Hi, I'm Dewie. I have ALS, or also known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
People that don't know her for 3 minutes will be telling her things that they haven't told another soul in the world, as if she were their best friend forever. And we've come to call that the Dewie Effect. I don't know what it is exactly. I think it's her very open acceptance of people. I don't know where she gets it, but it's who she is. She's had it, according to people who knew her before me, she's had this all her life. And it's without a doubt the most remarkable thing about her. It's the essence of what she brings to every relationship.
So I'm Alice Bateman, and Dewie, my dear friend Dewie, is my oldest friend. Literally, I can say my oldest and dearest friend. We met when we were 6 years old in this little tiny village deep in Mexico on Lake Chapala. Her parents were there and my parents were there, and since there were just a handful of Americans in that village, they would get together and play charades. And we, of course, would sit around and have hot chocolate and tell jokes and just enjoy being with our parents, which was a lot of fun. And that's how we spent our very young youth, you know, riding horses and hiking and going from one home to another for a meal and just having so much fun.
My name is Feather King, and I've been friends with Dewie since we were both 15 years old. We were starting the 10th grade, which is the first grade of high school, in Santa Monica, California. And we lived about 2 blocks away from each other. And we took a regular city bus to school. We would go to the same bus stop and noticed each other. And I was particularly interested in Dewie because she was wonderfully exotic, and she had pierced ears, which no one had pierced ears. So I deduced, of course, that she was from Mexico. And so one day, coming home from school, I sat next to her and I said hi, and I noticed a ring that she had on. And it was quite lovely, and it had an oval. And I said, "What a great ring." And she said, "Oh, you want to see if it's really cool?" And she took it off and she flipped the oval over. So on that side it was green, and on the side that I first saw it was gray. And anyway, that started us off blabbing, and we didn't stop ever.
Okay, I'm Meg Jackson Reinhardt. I am lucky to be Dewey's first cousin. Dewie is about 10 years older than I am, which makes a perfect spacing for Dewie to be sort of my cool cousin. And that's exactly what she was to me. She lived with my grandmother, who I adored, and with my aunt, who was also very important and glamorous to me. And I think even then, as young as I was, I knew that we all 4 of us were a certain kind of woman or girl, certain kind of female. And to me, Dewie was beautiful, smart, kind. She always had time for me. And she sang beautifully. She played the guitar. And I just wanted to be her from the time I was a little girl.
I'm Tricia Jackson Larson, and my mother's eldest sister, Claudia, who I always called Missy, was Dewey's mother. So Dewie is my cousin. The way she talked to you, she's very giving, and you just always felt like you were invited and you were a part of things. So for me, especially in my awkward years, she was quite a magnet.
When Dewie was in her teenage years, about 12 or 13, I think, she and Claudia moved back to California, and she enrolled in high school there. But before she moved, she had lived in Mexico and had some happy times swimming in Lake Chapala, where she lived in Ajijic, and riding bareback, horseback, all over the countryside, and she loved that.
Okay, my name is Deborah Zimmer. Back in the day, Dewie knew me as Deborah Levine. Dewie and I were part of a women's consciousness raising group that was in the Berkeley, Oakland area, 1975. So when I think of Dewie, of course, I think of the smile that doesn't quit, and her enthusiasm for life.
I'm Barbara Schwartz, and I met Dewie in November of 2002. And I met her at Curves, and this woman said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Barbara." And she said, "Well, I'm Dewie." And she said, "I think everybody needs to know everybody's name." So everybody in the circuit had to say their name, and then she made us repeat the names until we knew everybody's name.
I'm Laura Allman, and I live in Shreveport, Louisiana. Their daughter, Sarah, and my daughter, Stephanie, were in Montessori school together, and they became good buddies, and through them, Dewie and I met, so we arranged a play date, and Dewie and I just hit it off right away. And I still feel exactly the same way I did when I first met her. I thought, this is somebody I want to be friends with for forever. And it has been. It's been wonderful.
And that first night, I knew I loved her. The first thing that she communicated to me, she spelled out, "It really chaps my ass that I can't share my wisdom with you." And I thought, oh yes, I love her.
You know, we talk about her smile all the time, and I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, that lady, because she just, you know, it was just a big smile.
I remember eyes and how they twinkle, and thinking, I bet you she's a short stick of dynamite.
In comes this lady with a coffee in one hand, a big smile. She comes running in. She says, "Hi." She says, "I'm Dewie." I'll never forget that. You really made an impression on me throughout the years you were in there, and it's still are. But boy, you just your character just so outstanding. I love you, Lord.
I'm Ruth Upton. I consider myself Dewey's stepmother because I was married to John Upton, who was her stepfather, I think from the years between her age 5 and 16, which were very important years for her. And I met Dewie only a few times, but I have this great affection for her that's based on what John told me about her. I was ready to like her before I even saw her. He was more of a Rolling Stone, but he really loved Dewie, and he spoke of her often. He had her picture all the time in his bedroom, and he enjoyed her because she was so alive, so responsive to everything. And he was a born teacher, and she picked up on everything. And she was talented and very sweet. He felt guilty. He hadn't realized how much she meant to him until after a few years. He realized that was a very important relationship, but he didn't appreciate it fully at the time. You know, he loved her and all that, but he didn't realize how important that was. I both think that it's so odd that she should be to have been stricken with the same thing John had, which is a very rare disease. So maybe they'll meet someplace, you know, maybe there's a special area where people who have ALS go, and she and John will meet. I know he'd be happy.
como el candor de una rosa.
Yes, she's very upbeat, and she's not a bore or anything. You know, I mean, she has a lot of spirit, and I say a lot of class.
My name's Oben, and I'm Dewey's stepson. When I was a kid, I sucked my thumb, and I used to like to rub my fingers on this material while I sucked my thumb, and I called it a sucky. And everybody, as I grew up, would try to get me to stop sucking my thumb. But Dewey, she made me a pillow with my name on it and a pillowcase, which is this red pillowcase, and it said OBIE. I went by Obi. And it was made of the best sucky material that you could find. And she gave that to me for my birthday or some occasion, and I just thought it was amazing that first you could make a pillow, you know. I was amazed at that, but that she did that. I know the way it made me feel is that it was okay to do it in front of Dewey, to suck my thumb, and that she was okay with that part of me. And you know, now that I've got my own son who makes a lot of his own decisions and stuff like that, I have to try to remember that kind of gesture, because you know, I was very adamant that I could suck my thumb. It was what I wanted to do, and she was one of the first people who never, can't remember, tried to stop me from doing that.
I am Lisa Kortrup. I'm married to Oben, and Dewey is my step-mother-in-law. Out of all the wonderful grandmas that our kids have, Dewey was the most trustworthy. If we needed a babysitter, it was Dewey that we were calling first. She's just the best, and the kids just love her to death. She knitted and she crocheted, and she made these cute little sweaters and stuff. Before she knew if it was going to be a boy or a girl, she started knitting this sweater for what turned out to be Annabelle. Well, this is the sweater. It's precious, it's adorable, but when we got her in it, when we got Annabelle in this sweater, it took all three of us. It took me, Oben, and Dewey, and her arms were just like this. She couldn't move. It was so little and so tight that we had to immediately take it off or her limbs might go numb. But it's just precious, and I get tickled thinking about that every time. She works so long and hard, and we love it. So we would just put it like next to her sometimes.
I'm Noah. I am Dewey's nephew. She's obviously the most accepting person in my family that I know, she's the most accepting person. So I'm glad that she was able to kind of give me advice, and that opened me up to all of my other family members. And I definitely feel a lot less constricted as I did in the past. So I would say Dewey had a very big part in that.
My name is Benjamin, and I'm Dewey's stepson. I mean, I felt like I knew her my whole life. When I first met her, I felt that way. I just immediately felt like she loved us. In Alaska, we would go fishing. I remember we would go fishing a lot, and we went out in this rickety little blue plastic boat, but we went into the ocean, and I can't believe that we did it now, but I mean, we would do all sorts of things. We went and saw glaciers in a big boat, and I think Pete was gone a lot flying, and so we spent a lot of time just exploring. We lived on this small island in Alaska. That's still the strongest memories I think I have of her, is being in Alaska when I first met her, because it was just such an intense experience to be up there in the summer, and it was great. That was one of the best times of my life.
Okay, I'm Bob. I'm Pete's younger brother. I'm Dewey's brother-in-law. I just have a memory of them when they were in California and living in Oakland. That's when I think I first met her. They were living in a communal home called Happy House. Yeah, it was strange. I think they met when Dewie was, one of them had put an ad in the paper for somebody to play guitar with and sing with. I think that's how they met.
Time can really mess around inside your mind, or time can be just what you need to help you find.
She was just so much fun to be around and always laughing. She was always laughing and she was just great.
I'm Mary Ann Quartrup, married to Bob, and I met Dewie, well, she's my sister-in-law. We had an immediate bond because we're married to Quartrup men who are dour Danes. She taught me how to knit, but she never taught me how to stop. I don't know how to end it. I said I was going to knit a house cozy because we were laughing about tea cozies and things, and I said, oh, I'm just going to knit one that's going to go all around the house. Dewie, no reflection of your knitting ability, all right? This is the house cozy that I've been building, knitting. Now, it goes on. Let's see, more. I did learn to purl. There was some purling in here. More. There's some little holes, which those are decorative elements. Goes on. So we get bigger. Here we go. It's a pink phase. More. Goes on. Okay, and this is where it all started. Dewie was actually making baby blankets for somebody. And so we had the pastels, and then I'm not sure how long it is, but I think it's not quite house cozy yet. I'm going to keep going, Dewie, until maybe the kids have kids, or when I'm going to keep going until Sarah gets married.
One of the great things about my mom was that she we would be in the car and we would be bored, or we would be kind of in a bad mood, both of us at the same time, and she'd say, let's make ourselves laugh really hard so that we can get out of this, and we would. We'd find something and then just get into that like giggly mode where we couldn't stop laughing, and it was great because then we felt better, and it was like, why were we upset? Or, that was so silly that we were so bored, and we would just make ourselves laugh. My mom would always swoop in and say, you can change this for yourself. You can change how you feel. You can choose how you want to feel. And she was right. At first I thought, oh, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But she was right. And she still shows that in her life, and she shows that with her disease, and she's just able to enjoy. She's happy. She's in 95% of my dreams. One dream I had right before I woke up, she said, I'm a happy girl. And that's what I remember hearing when I woke up. And so I said, I'll come help get your pajamas on. And we sat her on the on the end of the bed, and we were trying to take her pants off, and she just slid off the bed, and we were both on the floor laughing because it happened kind of slowly and awkwardly, and then we couldn't figure out how to get back up on the bed.
Dewie has inspired me. She is not afraid to go out and travel and live with this disease. She and Pete are great, and he is an advocate for his wife. Dewie always is smiling and taking people with her smile. She does not do that with everyone because I noticed her at the ALS meetings. Sometimes she is listening, and her response will be in agreement with a smile. Pete and Dewey were my very first visitor at my home after I survived my trek. When Donna could not do what she thought she needed to do, she called for Pete and Dewey. I am sure Dewey agreed, and Pete got her to come by to help me. She is always proud of the work her husband is doing on her behalf. I think I know this because she smiles when she sees me.
So we went to an event with Pete for Dallas Dining, where we talk about the ALS Living Fund. And we had dressed up. It was one of the cold days last year. And Dewey was there, and a guy that had quite a bit of alcohol came over and said that his family was involved in ALS. It might have been an uncle or something that had ALS before, and so he was very engaged with Dewey. And he started hugging and like kissing her on her face. It was like real kissing. And so this went on for a while, and we just were looking. Everybody was looking at her. And we were just like, who's this guy? Maybe Pete knows her or something. It wasn't. And Mabel, one of the caregivers, was with her. And after the gentleman left, we kind of washed her face off. And then she laughed.
One of the first meetings I was attending, she said she was mad today. She was just upset, and she could express that, and she felt comfortable in the group expressing it. But then later, she also talked about what she wanted for Christmas. And I don't know if you want to edit this out, but she said, well, one of the things she wanted was a boob job.
So my name is Pete. I'm Dewey's husband. The next story that I'll tell is about when Sarah was born. The couples would go to Lamaze classes called the Lamaze birth methods. Dewey and I went to these classes, and they taught Dewey how to breathe, and they taught me how to coach Dewey to concentrate on breathing and relaxing during the contractions. And something happened there that was spectacular. Dewey's ability to take direction from me and trust me that it would be okay if she relaxed and breathed, and I coached her. That we did something together that I had never experienced with her, and as a team we did this, and it was a closeness that I had never experienced before with someone. When Dewey was later diagnosed with ALS, many years later, that experience returned. That partnership, it came back. I never thought I'd see that again. I'm going to tell the story about how I lost my anger, because Dewey's such an important part of it. I knew that my anger was a problem in my life. I knew it was something I didn't want to have. What was pushing me was that I was really afraid I was going to drop Dewey in the bathtub and she was going to break a bone, and then we're going to really have problems. So facing that or arguing with management at the apartment, I chose to argue with the management. They evicted us. They were well within their rights to do that. As the eviction letters started to come, and they hired a lawyer to write letters to us, I lost my temper one morning, and I, in a fit of anger, drove my pickup truck through the security gate at the apartment complex, which was all captured on camera, and they proceeded to threaten to, file charges for a felony destruction of property. We had 24 hours to get out of the apartment. Dewey in those days could speak one word at a time. She'd take a breath and say a word, and take a breath and say a word. And she sat me down in front of her, and she said, the following. Pete took a breath. She said, "You are my prince. And I need you to do the right thing." I have come to believe that God was speaking to me using Dewey's voice. By holding it that way, it gives this whole thing a dignity, and it gives me an ability that I didn't have without seeing it as God's pleading to me to do the right thing. I could hear God saying the very same thing. Pete, you are my prince. I need you to do the right thing. And it just comes to me anymore to think of that over and over again. And it's not to think of it to stave off the anger. The anger's gone. It's just gone. It's magic. And so I'm able to do things that I didn't think I was able to do. And I don't know what the next day holds anymore, but that's okay. It'll work out. It's going to be okay. I accept it. I've learned how to live this way by living with Dewie, loving Dewie, serving Dewie, taking care of Dewie. And that's her gift to me. And of course, as always, her love.
I love you. I love you. I changed my mind. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? I love you so much.
I mean, there are people grieving her that have never met her and loving her who have never met her. And I think that's because her love for you and your love for her has just made her and your experience of her even bigger. And I think that's wonderful. I love that it's gone both ways.
The Dewie Effect.
The Dewie Effect.
That's it, the Dewie Effect.